Hello, everyone. It is Karen Quinn, and today we are going to talk about the new thinking and engagement assessment that's being given in New York City by the private schools. Not all the private schools, but many of them. So we're going to walk through what this test is likely to be like, how you might prepare your child, and just what your child might expect on a test like this. Let's begin by just going over the traditional private school admissions process in New York City. It starts about a year before the students would be starting school. So this August, early September, you should go to the websites of the schools that you're interested in and pull up your applications from these schools. Now, the kids who are applying to kindergarten must be 5 by September 1st. If you have a child with a summer birthday, it sometimes can be problematic with some of the schools. So if you're in that situation, you might want to reach out to us and talk to us a little bit about that. Depending on when the birthday is and the maturity of the child, it could be a little bit of an issue. What you do is you narrow your list of schools down to 8 to 12 schools. You're going to submit your applications, your essays. Now, normally there are going to be in-person parent interviews. There are going to be in-person school tours. Some schools have required testing in the past. Some are still going to require an assessment. Others we're not so sure about this year. And always there have been small group visits by students who are applying. And there's always been, even when another test was given, when students came into the school to apply to do their group visit, they were always pulled aside and each school would give its own assessment of things that they cared about for their program. So they might be giving a little assessment that looks at pre-reading skills, some early math skills, or just some other types of skills that are just very important to that particular school. And there will also be the nursery school reports that the school would be asking for from the nursery school that your child attends. Now, this year, of course, because of coronavirus, things are going to be a little bit different. And a group of schools have announced that they're going to be giving a test called the Thinking and Engagement Test. And that's what I'm going to talk about in a moment. These are the schools in this list that have said they will be accepting the Thinking and Engagement Test, or the T&E Test, this year. And these schools are all going to be having an admissions process that will be virtual. They have essentially said that, and that is why they're giving this particular test, which is going to be given online, and we'll talk about it in a moment. Now, all of the schools listed here are schools that did not sign up to give the T&E test, and I didn't list every single private school in New York City, but these are most of them. The schools that have the double asterisks have indicated that they will be using a virtual admissions process this year. So I think most schools are going to be going to a virtual admissions process, but not all. Avenues, for example, and again, I was just reading this on their website. If you go to their website, it seems like they're going to be having some in-person events, and that the admissions process may be similar to what it had been in the past. So really, the best thing to do if you're going to be applying to some of these schools, really, or any of these schools, is go to the website of the school itself, see what they're saying about their admissions process this year. The situation, I think, is very fluid. Even the T&E test, it's a brand new test. There's very little experience giving it. Perhaps things might change. Perhaps more schools may sign up to give it. once they have more experience with it, perhaps the process will change. So the best thing to do is just reach out to the schools that you will be applying to, find out what their process is going to be, and see if there have been any changes since I'm recording this training video. Now, what have they said about the thinking and engagement test so far? They're calling it a stopgap solution that was put together because of COVID-19 for a year when, it would be very difficult to meet with and observe your child in person. And so these schools have gotten together to come up with one test that they would all accept, and just to make it easier for families so they would not have to have a special test for every single school they applied to. So the test is going to be given once for all schools. And when you apply to a school that accepts the test, what happens is they will send you information about how to arrange to take the test. Now, for this particular test, they are not going to be sending you the results of the test. They will just send those results to whichever schools or organizations you indicate you want the test results sent to. It will be administered by Zoom. They say it might take up to about 45 minutes. It probably will be faster once they get into the swing of things, but plan on about 45 minutes. The child will have to wear headphones when they take the test. There needs to be an adult in the room to help with technology, and they want the adult to be wearing earbuds or headphones, and you're going to have to stay busy during the test. They don't want you watching or helping your child in any way. You will have to sign a consent form that says that you aren't recording or sharing the content of what you might see or hear when your child is tested. So it costs $250 to take this test, although there is financial assistance available. It will be given September 8th through December 18th, 7 days a week. This is a test that is not a normed test. It is not a standardized test. You will probably not find a lot of information about it on the internet. It was developed by two psychologists who are experts in early childhood development. And it's supposedly going to be child-friendly activities for 4 to 5-year-olds. And it will be administered by a diverse group of early childhood professionals who have been trained to administer this test. What will it cover? It's going to cover receptive language, expressive language, verbal reasoning, nonverbal reasoning, problem solving. Then they said developmental areas where schools need information to determine fit. And I read that to be pre-academic type skills like math, reading, ELA, that sort of thing. And because the test is called the Thinking and Engagement Test, I would also assume that they will be looking at how engaged is your child in taking this test over Zoom. And we'll talk a little bit about what they look for to determine engagement, how that works. These are some of the qualities of engagement, which I'm going to talk to you about in just a moment. Okay, so let's look at the types of questions that may be on this test. So I'm giving you 1 or 2 examples of each type of question you might see, but there may be many more. And I am basing this on, at Testing Mom, certainly we work with test prep all over the country, so we see all the different tests that are given to assess for these different skills. So I'm pulling some of our questions that we have for some of these different tests that evaluate whether a child has these skills or not. So the first is verbal reasoning, and what this is it is thinking and reasoning around representational pictures that look like, the real thing as opposed to figures and shapes. But also language and words. So an example of a verbal reasoning type question would be one like this. Which picture from those above is different from the others and doesn't belong? 4 of them are the same, 1 doesn't belong, and the one that doesn't belong would be the child in shorts, because they're all playing instruments, but they all have long sleeves, but he's got shorts on, so that one's a little different. Another verbal reasoning type question might be something like this. This would be all language. Trout and salmon are both what? They're both fish. So that's thinking with language. Nonverbal reasoning, some examples of, or here's just one example, but that is the opposite of reasoning with words. This is a child's ability to think and solve problems using shapes, figures, images, charts, and diagrams. So just think anything but a real representational picture here. In this example, the question is, look at the figures on top. They are alike in some way. Which picture on the bottom belongs with the figures on top? And the answer to this one is this right here, because all of these have the black part of the triangle on the bottom of the two squares, and this one does too. So that's an example of a nonverbal reasoning question. You might also see nonverbal reasoning analogies. There's maybe serial reasoning, which would be patterning types of questions. But that's an example of a nonverbal reasoning question. And then expressive language, we'll do expressive and receptive. We'll do those together. Receptive is really your child's ability to tune in, listen to, and understand the language they hear, and when they get older, they read all day. So we do know that children, when they're younger, are able to understand more words than they may necessarily be able to express themselves. So an example would be which picture goes best with the word woolly? And that would be the sheep. For expressive language, this is a child's ability to use their words orally and later in writing to express ideas and feelings in a clear and organized way. So an example of a question we have on Testing Mom, a couple of questions would be, what is luggage? And then the child has to define it. They get more credit for giving a more thorough definition. So if someone says a suitcase, they might get 1 point, but if they say something like, well, luggage is suitcases and bags and something to put your things in when you travel, so it's a little more expansive, they might get more credit. Another example of a expressive language type question would be something like this, where we give them a picture and we might say Lily's team is in the finals, the score's tied, Lily has the ball, but she misses her shot. Her team loses the game. Lily is upset. If you were Lily's best friend, what would you say to help her feel better? So how well can your child express themselves and explain what you might say to a child who's disappointed about losing a game? So that would be an example of an expressive language type of question. Then we get into developmental skills that they may want to look at to see if your child has some of the academic abilities that the school may be looking for. With math, they would be computational skills and also thinking skills needed for higher order math, such as sequencing, patterning, ordering, classifying, and comparing. So here's an example of a math question for a young child. Mary was supposed to read 10 books over the summer break. By July, she had read the number of books you see in the first box. Which box on the side shows how many more she needs to read by the end of the summer? So there's 2, 4, 6 here. So she's read 6 in July. She needs to read 4 more to read 10 by the end of the summer. But what you have here is the child has to listen. They have to remember what you asked and then choose the answer. Here's another one, a measurement question. How many inches long is the worm? 7. And then here's an example of some early ELA, pre-reading types of skills. Pictures above. Which picture does not begin with the k sound? And that would be the suitcase, because the candle, the cake, and the cookies all begin with that sound. And then this would be an example of almost like a reading comprehension question, although to a younger child, they would see the picture and the tester would read the question and read the answers to them. Danny hopes he does not have a what? A cold, a virus, a wisdom tooth, or a cavity. Well, in the context of this picture, he hopes he doesn't have a cavity. Okay, and now we'll talk about engagement. With engagement, what does it even mean? And when we're working with kids at Testing Mom, and we have tutors who work with kids on this particular test, we're actually watching all the engagement with them, and we are evaluating how engaged they are on all these different levels with we have a scale, a 5-point scale. It's also on the site as well. But we're actually watching for this as we're working with the child the entire time. Although on the website, we give you this and you can see how well your child engages as well. But it's important to be able to also do this over Zoom and see how well they are able to engage over Zoom, since that's how this test is going to be given. But the things we're looking at with engagement, we're looking at behavioral engagement. How well does the child listen to instructions? Do they stay on task when they're given a task? Cognitive engagement, how persistent are they when the questions or problems get challenging? Do they keep working at it? Monitoring and strategy, how well does the child approach and work through the challenge in a deliberate sort of, trial and error kind of way? If they make a mistake, are they noticing that and going back and fixing their mistake? So just how well do they monitor and strategize with these questions? And then we're looking at their affective engagement, their enthusiasm, their energy. Are they positive when they work with you? Do they show excitement? Or are they indifferent or frustrated when the challenges get difficult? And just to show you, I didn't, it's so detailed, the checklist, but I wanted to give you an example of what we look at. So we might look at low engagement all the way to high engagement through a checklist. And so, is the child listening to instructions? And we would score them based on, very low engagement. They're fidgeting, they're looking away, they're not responding when we ask them questions. They just appear not to be paying attention. All the way to, moderate engagement. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they look away, they respond to some, but not all of the examiner's questions. All the way to high engagement. They're paying close attention. They're nodding when you're talking. They're answering questions asked, and they are commenting on the activity. And we have detailed things to look for on-task behavior, enthusiasm and energy, persistence, monitoring progress and strategy, and then their affect, positive or negative. One of the things, if you join Testing Mom and you use our practice materials for engagement, what we do is we give you a new activity you can teach your child that starts out really easy but does become harder. And you watch for these things, are they persistent? Do they keep working at it when it does get hard? And that is the way we believe the testers for the T&E test will be looking at engagement of your child over Zoom when they assess your child. So how can you get your child ready? Join Testing Mom if you are not a member already. If you are a member, what I want to say is you would go to either the Thinking and Engagement page on our website, or you could go to New York City private schools, and this material is up there as well. On this page, we do have over 1,500 questions for the T&E test. You could just click on and open them up. And I'm going to show you some other things that you can work on the website. We also have kindergarten readiness questions beyond the thinking and engagement questions, because remember, not all of the private schools are going to be giving the T&E test. So we have additional questions that work on those kindergarten readiness skills. that may not be covered in the T&E test. But actually, if, you know, even if your child is going to be assessed by something other than the T&E test, these questions are good to work with, because whatever the school gives, the types of questions that are on the T&E test are very typical of what all tests are that are given to young kids. I mean, there's only so much that you can expect a young child to be able to do, and to be, you know, they might know their letter sounds, they might know certain certain sight words, but they're not going to be able to read long passages. I mean, you know, so so the types of questions we have here will be very helpful for any assessment that any school gives for private school, because it's all the sorts of skills younger children are expected to be learning and gaining from, you know, pre-K until they're ready to start school. On the Testing Mom website, I do recommend that you go to our IQ Fun Tree, and you can play the games with your child, or let your child play the games. We have everything from super easy, pre-K and K, and that's probably where you should focus. This picture is second grade, but we go down to early grades. And you can see it's math, visual spatial reasoning, knowledge, language, thinking, listening, reading. These are all the kinds of things that are on the T&E test. We also give you access to the questions in our IQ Fun Pack board game. So just, you know, do these questions as well. These will be very helpful for any early childhood test that a child may take for private school admissions, because it's all kindergarten readiness. The other thing you get as a member of Testing Mom is you get access to our Skill Building Academy. And the areas where I would want you to be working would be maybe some early math, maybe through Dreambox, or ScootPad, or Smart Math perhaps. Any of these would be fine. Just work on that early math. You could go to Reading Kingdom, work on early reading skills. Hear Builder, work on listening and following direction skills. So you have access to all of this as a Testing Mom member. The other thing you have access to, and you can get these on Amazon, these are some of our physical products, but we have Kindergarten in a Box, which works on all of these different abilities. These are more cognitive types of abilities, except math, which, you know, math concepts. And so it's both the thinking math and the calculating math, and then verbal, general knowledge, spatial for the nonverbal, and then social emotional learning. So this would be something that would be helpful as well to prepare for New York City private school testing. And this can be, you can get this on Amazon. And then the last thing I want to mention is if you would like your child to be evaluated for the G&T test, just to see where are their strengths, where are their weaknesses, and know what you do need to work on, we can evaluate your child. You can call us at this number here, 813-544-3833, or reach out to us at tutoring@testingmom.com. We can both assess your child, and we have tutors who work with very young children online, on Zoom. We actually have a lot of experience doing that and keeping them engaged. And I think that's going to be very important for this particular test, given that it's a test that will be given over Zoom. So you want your child to have some experience working with a teacher over Zoom, paying attention, listening to the instructions, staying engaged. And so our tutors are really good at helping kids learn how to do this, because, as I said, we have been doing it actually since the pandemic began, is when we really ramped up working with with younger children, 4 and 5-year-olds, literally online, and we've gotten very good at it, but it really took a while to figure out that engagement piece, how to keep a young child's attention, and as we work with them over Zoom. But this is something, if you're interested in, you can reach out to us, and we would be happy to help you get your child prepared for the T&E test, or really for anything that's going to be given in New York, whether it's Hunter or New York City Gifted and Talented, or just kindergarten readiness in general. We're happy to help you with that. And that's it. That is the thinking and engagement test. And I thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.